I'm going to do a little check-in on JD Farag here for 2022, and I'm going to provide my thoughts on where I think all of this is going with him. JD has really been puzzling me the last 2 years, and one of the things I try to do is I try to get inside the mind of these people and figure them out, and and then I give you guys my opinion on where their thoughts are and why they do what they do, and I try to break things down so that we can get to the truth, and maybe some people can come to a better understanding of what not only just how to process things going on in the world. And I've been watching JD a long time. He's probably the guy I've watched the most over the most amount of time. I've listened to just about every one of his videos. I know that sounds like I have no life, but believe me, I have things in my job where I don't really have to think about what I'm doing. I'm just processing stuff, and I listen to him in the background at double speed or one and a half times speed, and I skip things. So you can pick things up if you do that. Um, but he's been puzzling. He's puzzling because sometimes I really wonder if the guy is even saved because of things he says. People who have the Holy Spirit and are in the position he's in shouldn't have such utter lack of discernment and say the things he says at times. Other times I think, okay, he's saved, but he's just really doesn't believe what he's talking about. He's just throwing nonsense around, and he knows it's nonsense, and he's really just trying to get an audience. Um, and then I watch him since early 2020, and I get the feeling that I think he really does believe what he says, and it's unfortunate. He believes in the sense of this. He firmly believes that he personally, and many others, but for sure him, is the last generation. He will not die. He really firmly believes he's going to heaven in the rapture any second. It's going to happen any second. And then when he sees things going on around the world, like the present situation, he's like, there's just no way it can't be in my lifetime. I just no way. So he is fully ensconced in this belief system. So he's not going to veer from it. And so when the pandemic hit, and he, by the way, in March of 2020, he giddily jumped up and down behind his pulpit and said he was excited about the pandemic. Go watch the video. This sick man literally said he was excited about the pandemic. And, here we are, millions of deaths later, uh, you know, atrocities being committed by governments to force people to take a medicine they shouldn't have to take if they don't want to. Admittedly, he says that this is horrible things. It's communism. It's the end of the world. It is what it is. He says the vaccine is literally poison from the devil himself, and is going to kill people. Like, he literally has said that. And JD, remember March 2020 where you said you were excited? And I point that out not to beat him up, but to say, look, we shouldn't be thinking that way. We don't know what's going to happen. He was excited because he thought the rapture would happen faster. It didn't. It didn't happen. All that happened was a bunch of bad stuff. And it's really sick thinking when a Christian does that, especially in public. So he starts there, and then he has obsessively talked about this thing for, really the better part of 2 years. He has abandoned all the Israel talk, all the Middle East talk. His channel used to be called Prophecy Update, Middle East Prophecy Update. That's what it used to be called, because he said Israel is God's prophetic clock. That's how we know how close we are as Israel. He has abandoned that entire thing and is focusing on nothing more than his obsession with the New World Order and the vaccines. And I think it's starting to, and here's where I get confused, because it's like, if the guy doesn't believe what he's saying, well, he's hurting himself. Why would he do what he's doing if he doesn't really believe in it? People are beginning to tire of his negativity. They're getting tired of it. Every week it's the same thing. Oh, it's just going to get worse. Oh, this whole thing is the Antichrist thing that I can't say the words because they take my videos down if I say the words. Um, And people are, I think, growing weary of this. They're like, JT, what happened to the old JD we used to know, who would get on the channel and say, don't worry, we're out of here. Your life might suck, but that's okay. You're going to be raptured soon. What happened to that guy? We want to hear that again, you know, which proves, of course, that all of this is nothing more than, candy, giving candy to kids instead of real spiritual meat. The kid stops crying. The kid's happy. Look at him. He's happy. I'm going to give him more candy. But it's terrible stuff. It's not good for him. So now he's giving people things that are really negative. And look, his viewership is plummeting. Now, I know he sends people directly to his website. And so there's a possibility that his viewership is way down because people have been trained to not even go to YouTube. They just go right to his web. I seriously doubt that. I seriously doubt it's that much. He is 1/10 what he used to be. He was getting 100,000 minimum views a week on these videos. He's getting 13,000. He's getting 17,000. He's getting 20,000. It's just dropping every single week. It's getting worse. And I really do think people are tired. They just don't want to hear this anymore. And so he's going to have to make some changes. Now let's check in with him here. I'm going to show you clips from last week and from this week to tell you, just to kind of demonstrate a little bit about where the guy's thinking is and where he's at right now today, and how, this has always been true of JD Farag. Every year, about once a year, maybe twice a year at times, he has to reset people's expectations because the man knows he's been telling lies, okay? He said 15, 17 years ago that we're on the cusp of the rapture, and it didn't happen. And it's 17 years later, and he knows that. And so every once in a while, he has to come out and say, yeah, I know, it didn't happen, but everybody just calm down, don't blame me, everybody stay with me here, stay with me, don't get mad, I'm not wrong, I'm still right, you know what I mean? And then he has to kind of, just back off, like, stay patient, everyone, just like all these other rapture soon liars. They know what they're saying is going to come out in the wash. It can't not come out in the wash. Even if they're fudging with the dates. Well, it'll happen soon. It's going to happen soon. Well, what do you mean by soon? Soon is relative. I'm not giving any dates. Yes, but you're saying soon, and you're wrapping that word around the news of the day that's happened in the last 7 days. I mean, what do you think we're supposed to think? Why are you using that word? You want us to think something when you say that word. That's why you used it. You want urgency. So don't pretend like you're not trying to create urgency. Don't pretend like you're avoiding time frames. You're not. You said it. Nobody forced you to say it. So then when soon passes, as he knows it will, it keeps happening. He has to know it's going to happen again. But he keeps telling us this, but then he has to defuse the bomb again. So here we are in one of his many negative Sundays where he's going to tell you a couple of lies here. Ready?
The ones who live their lives in anticipation of this hope, this blessed hope, this only hope that we have, because that's the only way we're getting out of this, by the way. We're not getting out of this unless Jesus comes and takes us out of this. That's the only way we're getting out of this. That's our only hope.
I mean, seriously? I mean, how bad can your doctrine be, and how badly can you set yourself up? You are behind a pulpit, sir. You are speaking for God here because you're behind a pulpit, and you've said you're speaking for God. And now you're going to tell your audience that the only way we are going to get ourselves out of the present situation is by being raptured? It ain't going to end other than us getting out of here, he said. That's what he just said. Here's some more.
Here's the truth.
By the way, here's the truth. Do you hear those words? Does J.D. Farag actually care about what he's saying? He is behind a pulpit with the moniker pastor, with an open Bible on his pulpit in a church. saying, here is the truth.
According to a myriad of prophecies in the Bible, this is how the world ends, and this is when the world ends. Sadly, the ones who still hold out hope that somehow things will turn around, things will get better, and even go back to normal, are the same ones who do not believe what I just said.
I mean, so again, so in other words, people who cling to the world and trust in the world and the politicians and medicines and other things, that don't trust God really, they're the people who don't believe what I just said. That this is how it ends, and this is when it ends. I mean, he literally has come out again and stated unequivocally there is no no denying what he said. There's no ambiguity to what he said. He said this 2022 timeline that we are on, with these present situations happening, they're not getting better. The only way we're going to escape them is we're going to be raptured. And this is when and how it will end. So I don't know how much more unambiguous you can get. How is that different than date setting? How is it going to be any different if, um, time passes and we start to see things change and things do get back to normal? What do you do then, Mr. I'm standing for God behind a pulpit? I mean, and then the weirder thing is, this is this week's prophecy update. 1 week later, and he just got done telling us that there's no hope. There's no hope. None, zero. We just have to sit here and wait to be whisked to heaven because that's the only way we're getting out of it. Then he senses that people are really desperate and tired and hurting because they're in real serious trouble, right? And they're probably emailing him this. And all of his promises have failed. Failed. He has lied and told you promises that never came true over and over again. Despite the fact they keep failing, he keeps doing it. Right? So here comes the liar now. Now he says this.
That's all fine and dandy and everything, but we still have a problem because he hasn't come back yet. And I'm looking at what's happening in the world, and I'm letting my heart get troubled again. Okay.
Yeah, we know, JD, he hasn't come back yet. Yeah, we don't need you to tell us that. We all know that because we got up this morning and we looked down at the floor and we were still on the earth. So, yeah, we know. We know, liar. We know everything you have said for 15 to 17 years has been a lie. And it continues on. Even though you know everything you said was wrong, you keep going. And what does he do in this video then? He says the only way we're going to get through life is by trusting God like never before. We need to trust God like never before, he says. But I thought our only hope was getting taken to heaven. Why are you giving us all this hope that trusting God will get us through when you just got through saying a week ago that going to heaven bodily without dying in a rapture is the only way, is the only hope? So here's what I think. 2022 will bring one of three scenarios. These are really the only three scenarios I can think of. They're quite simplistic, but I think they hold some truth. First of all, things could get worse. Second of all, things could stay the same. And third of all, things could get better. And when I say things, I'm talking about mostly pandemic related things, okay? Always a chance that the economy could suffer some great loss and some things could happen that cause other things to domino effect or whatever. But let's just say it's going to get better, it's going to stay the same, or it's going to get worse. Okay. JD Farag is going to have to pivot here very soon, and I think probably by April he is going to come back out with a new prophecy update on a Sunday. Just, all of a sudden one Sunday he's going to say, for this prophecy update, I felt the Lord laid on my heart to, he'll have some idiom, I'm not sure, turn the page on the prophecy update and look at Israel, because as you know, Israel is God's prophetic clock. And then he will talk about something going on in the Middle East and shift the entire conversation away from what he's been talking about. He has to, because if things get worse, then his negativity is going to really hurt people, and he's going to get so much pushback and so few views of his videos that he's going to have to say, all right, I'm going to have to stop talking about this stuff so much because people are hurting as it is. If things stay the same, people are going to get bored. They're already getting bored. They want to hear about a rapture coming any second. That's what they want to hear. That's why they watch him. And thirdly, if things get better, he's really in trouble. And I mean, this is what's sad, is the only thing he has to go on is if things get worse or if something new and terrible happens, so that he can continue to draw people in. But if things get better, which I'm betting they do, I'm betting that this entire pandemic pretty much blows over. Viruses tend to do that. They tend to weaken. We will get herd immunity throughout the world one way or the other. And, that's going to make the whole vaccine thing kind of a moot point. People will stop talking about it. People will go back to work. We've already seen things getting back to normal throughout the world. And, things are not like they were 2 years ago. Let's just face it. This guy lives in a bubble. If he thinks that stadiums aren't full again, if he thinks that people aren't going to restaurants and going into work like they used to at all, and everybody's still stuck in their homes just because maybe he is, he needs to get out more. So if things get better, it's really going to be uncomfortable for the guy because the whole thing's blown over and nobody's even talking about this stuff anymore. And he's going to have to eat the words he said back here, where he stated unequivocally, this is how it ends and when it ends. So JD Farag, I'm saving this video. I'm going to show the world again what a liar you are. Here's why you're a liar. Are you ready? Number one, you might be wrong. Number two, you act like you're right, and you use the name of God for it. Shame on you.